The four words attributed to Rabbi Akiva in Pirkei Avot, Hakol tzafui v'harashut nituna, all is known and the choice is granted, seem illogical, an illusion, a non sequitur. If God knows the future, how can there be free choice? Let's examine this conundrum. We can't solve it, but maybe we can begin to understand its intent. Let's examine a choice in this week's Parsha, Lech Lecha. To resolve the conflict between their shepherds, Avram asks Lot to choose. If you go to the right, I'll go leftward. If you go to the left, I'll go rightward. In the story, note that Lot only looks one way, and seeing the beautiful Jordan Valley below him, never even bothers to look the other way. He chooses. Rashi quotes from Midrash Rabbah that Lot was like a man chasing after his mother's dowry. He runs after the familiar, the sure thing. He stays within his comfort zone. It's a choice of sorts. We're now in a political season with elections in Israel and the US. Research shows that political choices, how we vote, left or right, are most often driven by our proclivities and personalities, both inborn and learned. Despite the universal democratic right to choose, most of us are like Lot, and usually only a small minority will seriously consider crossing the political lines. The evolutionary psychologist Steven Pinker points out that our senses are adapted to see and hear and smell within a limited range because if ancient man had seen or heard or smelled everything, he would have been unable to function in his environment, to discern dangers, to satisfy basic needs. The development of the human brain expanded our evolutionary capacity, but still within limits. We may have choices, but only within the range determined by our senses. Similarly, the cultures that we grow up in, our immediate environment, play the key role in determining our range of choices. They create within us a set of preferences based on language, aesthetics, and values. They teach us how to survive and thrive in an environment by limiting our choices. As the poet Shaul Chernyakhovsky stated, a man is nothing but the shape of his native landscape. Education can prepare us to make better choices. Technology can provide tools for analyzing alternatives, but still only within a limited range. The alternatives offered are normally quite familiar to us. But it's when the spectrum of choice widens to the point where it yields a paradox that even our best judgment may not help in reaching a sound decision. We tend to fall back on other instincts. In next week's Parsha, Avram must choose either to follow God's command to kill the son, who is the embodiment of God's promise to him, or to rebel against the God whose word he's brought into the world in order to save his son. The alternatives are so extreme, so outside of experience, that choice becomes a paradox. Abraham is forced to fall back on his faith and surrender to God's will. I think that the key to understanding Abraham's choice in the Akedah story is found in this week's Parsha, in a verse that's startling both for its clarity and for its ambiguity. V'he'emin b'Adonai v'yachshavveha lo tzedakah. Does the sentence mean, as Rashi taught, that God rewarded Abraham for his faith, or, as per Ramban, that Abraham believed that God would act justly? The first reading promises a reward for following God, regardless of the horrific implication, while the last one teaches that faith itself is a choice based on the understanding that God will, in the end, deliver justice. Shavua Tov from Schechter.